Hello, I'm Daymia Rousseau, a UCSC intern reporting for KSQD. The Trump administration's attacks on DEI programs have hit especially hard when it comes to access to gender-affirming care, specifically for trans youth. Regardless of the intense pressure on schools by the Department of Education to remove all forms of gender ideology, many schools and healthcare settings are challenging this position and moving towards protecting trans youth.
There are implicit and explicit impacts that trans youth and trans young adults are experiencing right now. The explicit ones that I am aware of are that gender-affirming care is becoming more difficult to come by if you are a transgender person under the age of 18, even in our area.
That's Adam Spickler. Adam is a trans man, a member of the Cabrillo College's Board of Trustees, an elected member of the Santa Cruz Democratic Party, and is currently involved with the Queer Youth Task Force. Given Adam's credentials, I asked him how Trump and the GOP's incentive to target gender ideology has impacted the community.
So if you are a young person in Santa Cruz County who in the last 6 months or 9 months has realized that your gender identity might require you, or you're interested in gender-affirming care for the first time ever, having a conversation with your doctor is pretty scary, and not knowing whether your doctor is affiliated with a healthcare providing agency that offers gender-affirming care, you might have less information available to you because healthcare affiliates and healthcare providers, understandably, are scared to get flagged in a larger way by the federal administration as providing gender-affirming care. We've watched in real time how the federal administration has gone after them legally and illegally.
So, healthcare providers are hesitant to advertise that they offer gender-affirming care due to the potential financial risk and political backlash from the federal government, regardless of whether they actually provide it or not, therefore limiting its accessibility. Or, as was the case this August at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles, preemptive measures may be taken by healthcare providers in the wake of the administration's demands, regardless of their legality. Difficulty getting a passport that matches one's identity and reducing health access are two explicit threats, but equally concerning are the attempts to erase trans identities. Again, Adam Spickler.
But the implicit messages that are part of and go beyond those two things are the ways in which permission is being given to be, at best, dismissive in acknowledging trans identities, and at worst, being violent. That is on the rise in ways that we are seeing.
Adam's comments made me especially curious about the ways in which trans youth and elders are able to circumvent these changes. Being a prominent trans figure in the Santa Cruz community, I wondered how Adam has been able to cope with these various social, financial, and political threats carried out by the administration.
I have been terrified of the reality of being trans like I never have been before this year. I have never been more aware than I have the last handful of months of what it must feel like all of your life to be visibly marginalized. Having such a target on our backs now from white nationalists, from people who feel emboldened to call transgender people terrorists. Completely wrong. But to be utilizing that false information to target trans people in a really scary way. At the same time, the federal government is listening to that and saying that they want to give credibility to those claims. And it is terrifying in a way that I never understood until it was happening to me.
Adam points out that different groups, depending on ethnic identity, may experience these impacts in different ways. This is especially relevant when you consider that DEI programs, of which are under direct attack from the Department of Education, encompass all of these concepts under that umbrella term, intersecting in complicated ways.
We've been here before, and undoubtedly we'll be here again.
That's Sandy Stone, an audio engineer, artist, educator, activist, and one of the core founders of transgender studies. Beginning in the 1960s, Sandy has had a long career in music production, as well as academic and critical writing. She is currently our engineer here at KSQD. She transitioned at a time when gender-affirming care was virtually non-existent. Nonetheless, her career advanced despite transphobic attacks against her, resulting in the seminal work, The Trans Manifesto. She has a unique perspective on how trans youth can cope with modern forms of oppression and erasure.
I've been talking about this for at least 2 years when Trump took office at the beginning of this year. I've been going around saying we're going to get kicked back. Specifically, what I've been saying was we've made 10 steps forward, and now we're going to be beaten back about 6 steps. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. People are going to suffer. People are going to die. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be 4 steps forward. It's just going to be hard to see. We've got trans academics, we have trans doctors, we have trans legislators, we have trans attorneys. We didn't have those before. That's all something that we've gone tooth and claw to get. And of course, some of that is going to go away. And a lot of what we do is under attack, particularly in the area of what we're calling trans health care.
Speaking for myself, as a trans woman, these issues have always plagued me in professional, medical, and social settings. Sandy delved deeper into conservatives' motivation for eliminating trans health care.
Because that's the part that refers to the parts of the body that are most horrid and most taboo and most revolting and really just most lasciviously attractive to the MAGA crowd, which is it involves genitalia, particularly young people's genitalia. Mm-hmm. So what I'm asking you to do for a moment is think about why is the hard right's attention so pathologically focused on children's genitalia? And I'm just going to leave you with that.
I mean, we can guess.
Yeah, of course I can guess. I think everybody can guess. And the trouble is that we're being subjected to someone else's sociopathic problem.
Whether one has gender dysphoria or not, this unhealthy public dialogue greatly impacts any child or adult's ability to receive proper health care. The normalization and enforcement of these taboos through political means and through budget cuts also seem to be having harsh effects on trans mental health. I asked Sandy if recent events had forced her to evaluate her own privileges and disadvantages in her 60-year career.
I'm sure I've changed in some ways because I'm alive and I keep thinking. But by and large, I have always tried to be aware of how my privilege works. I started to move forward and got knocked back and eventually got in touch with Stanford and so on. There was not a minute during that time that I wasn't aware that I had a leg up about something. But during that time, I kept thinking, I'm up against something which is a manifestation of a power imbalance. And I need to keep my eye on that. And I did. But I would say from that time to now that I'm still, if anything, I'm more acutely aware of the power imbalances that are created by differences in ethnicity, in race, in gender, almost anything you could think of. That's the way capital and power work.
While the Trump administration and the Supreme Court have recently justified blocking the ability to choose one's gender identity on passports under the basis that it is historical fact, Trump's additional comments that transgender identity is corrosive sets a dangerous precedent and can result in harms that go beyond rhetoric. The question then remains, how do we, as a community, better accommodate and support one another regardless of these attacks? Does it end at awareness? Perhaps it begins at sharing limited academic and financial resources. Or, maybe, it begins with deconstructing various internal biases within ourselves to not help contribute to the division installed by federal orders, as well as social conditions they create. Thanks for listening. This is Daymia Rousseau, UCSC Intern, reporting for KSQD.